If you're just tuning into the video, sorry that I didn't record the first two examples. My bad. Let's pick it up with number 10. We are looking for greatest common factor. That means what can we divide out of both of these terms? We're undoing the distributive property. What can we pull out of both terms? So if you think about the numbers 2 and 12, you can divide both of those numbers by 2. So they have 2 in common. This one has x times x. This one just has an x. So they both have an x that could be pulled out. So to figure out what goes in the parentheses, it's like you're doing division. 2x squared divided by 2x is x. Negative 12x divided by 2x would be negative 6. And you can always check yourself by redistributing to see if you have what you started with. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 6 is negative 12x. Now we're going to go into factoring when a does not equal 1. So yesterday you factored things that looked like this. X squared plus 5x plus 6. When you're factoring these trinomials, you're looking for two numbers that multiply to give you the last number and add up to the middle number. So this looks familiar from yesterday. What I didn't tell you yesterday is that there's actually a number in front of this x squared. What number is currently in front of the x squared?
1.
A 1. And if I did 1 times 6, this number would still be 6. So I didn't tell you about that step yesterday because you didn't really need to do it, because 1 times anything is whatever that number is. But now that that number isn't a 1, we have to multiply the first number with the last number. So multiply your a value 3 times your c value 2. What is 3 times 2? 6. We are looking for two numbers that multiply to give us 6. Not just 2, 6. Because we had to multiply the 2 with the 3. The middle number is still the same. We're still trying to add up to our middle number, 7. So what pair of numbers multiplies to give us 6 and adds up to 7? 1 and 6. Now, yesterday, we would have just dropped those in the parentheses. Don't write this because this is definitely not right. We would have dropped the 1 and the 6 into the parentheses and said, there, it's factored. But if I took this and multiplied it out, x times x is definitely not 3x squared. So we're going to have to do a little bit more work to get this factored. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rewrite this polynomial, but instead of 7x, I'm going to split it up using the numbers we just found. So the 1 and the 6 that we found, this magic pair of numbers, becomes 1x plus 6x. If you were to add 1x and 6x together, what is that? 7x. So I haven't really changed the trinomial. I just took that middle term and uncombined my like terms. Now we're going to do a thing called factor by grouping. After the second term, you're going to split this. So we have the first group and the second group. We are going to factor the greatest common factor out of each of these groups. So take a look at the first group. 3x squared plus 1x. What do those two terms have in common? 1 and x. So they have x in common. When we divide that out of these two terms, whatever's left is going to go in these parentheses. So 3x squared divided by x is going to leave us with 3x. 1x divided by x is going to leave us with 1. So we've got x times 3x plus 1. Now we will go to the other set of the other group. What do 6x and 2 have in common? 2. And huge helpful hint, whatever symbol is right after that split, drop that symbol down. Okay. 6x divided by 2 is 3x. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. Do you notice anything interesting about this and this? They are the same. If they are not the same, you did something wrong. They will always be the same. Here's your final factored form. X plus 2 is your first set of parentheses. 3x plus 1 is your second set of parentheses.
You got the x plus 2 off of the 2 outside the numbers?
So the x plus 2 comes from these numbers. Here, I'll highlight them in pink. There's your x plus 2. Your 3x plus 1 comes from the 2 parentheses that are the same. Okay, I'm waiting for it. The most common question I get is, where did the other 3x plus 1 go? Or do we need a square on the 3x plus 1? And the answer to that is no. Okay, I'm going to, well, maybe I won't pull up another screen because I don't think I can. If I were to take, oh, that's definitely a highlighter. If I were to take x plus 2 and multiply it with 3x plus 1, what would you do to multiply this out? You distribute the x, and then you distribute the 2. If I were to write that out, we would do x times the 3x plus 1, then we would do 2 times the 3x plus 1. If we actually wrote out the distributive property, this is what it looks like. Notice that is the same as that step. So our second to last step is really just the distributive property fully written out. We're collapsing that back down. So x times both of these, that's what's written here. 2 times both of these, that's what's written there. All right, let's do this again because the first time you see this, it's kind of like, oh, information overload. Our first step is always going to be multiply your A times your C. So 2 times 5 is 10. We are looking for 2 numbers that multiply to give us 10 and add up to our middle number, negative 11. Okay, we're multiplying for a positive. That means either both positive or both negative. So negative 1, negative 10. This pair of numbers is used to split your middle term. So we're going to write 2x squared minus 1x minus 10x plus 5. Next, we're going to split this into 2 groups and then get in the habit of whatever symbol is right before the third term, drop that symbol down because you're going to use that symbol in the next step. Okay, first group, 2x squared and negative 1x. What do 2x squared and negative 1x have in common? Just x, or 1x. It's very common that you won't have a number for this first group, but you will always have an x. Okay, if we take 2x squared divided by x, we'll be left with 2x. Negative 1x divided by x, negative 1. Now let's go to the second group. What do negative 10x and positive 5 have in common? 5. And do you see how we dropped that negative down? They actually have negative 5 in common. That's going to help us make our signs correct. Okay, so negative 10 divided by negative 5 is positive 2x. 5 divided by negative 5 gives us negative 1. If we didn't factor out the negative, we would have had negative 2x plus 1, and then our parentheses wouldn't have matched, so it wouldn't be quite right. Okay, you want your parentheses to match, and notice 2x minus 1, 2x minus 1. So one of your parentheses is 2x minus 1. The other parenthesis is the stuff in front, x minus 5. Okay, let's get started on number 3, and then I'll let you try it on your own. Remember, you have to multiply your first number times your last number, your A times your C. So we are looking for two numbers that multiply to give us -6 and add up to 1. Did you get -2 and 3? Those numbers are used to split up this middle number. So 2x squared minus 2x plus 3x minus 3. Now, split it. See if you can finish this process. Okay, the way we originally wrote it with minus 2x plus 3x in the middle, your first group has 2x in common. And if you divide both of these by 2x, you're left with x minus 1. This is a very common mistake. When you try to do -2x divided by 2x, people think, oh, it just goes away. Well, it doesn't go away. There needs to be a placeholder there, so there's a 1 there. Your second group has 3 in common, and you still have that x minus 1 left. So our factored form is 2x plus 3, x minus 1. Over here on the right, what if we put these two middle numbers in the opposite order? This time the first group only has x in common. The second group doesn't seem to have anything in common. They only have -1 in common. Do you see how doing the middle terms reversed, all it does is it ends up making your answer the other order. So the parentheses are the same, they're just in a different order. So the order that you put those two middle numbers is not going to affect your answer. It just might make your work look a little bit different than your neighbor's work. Okay, which other one should we try? Let's do number 5. Do you want me to show you another method for this? No. We're going to do number 5 the same. What's your first step?
3 times 6.
3 times -6 is -18. We're adding up to 7. Okay, so we figured out that it is -2 and 9. So 3x squared minus 2x plus 9x minus 6. If you happened to write plus 9x minus 2x, that would be fine. Your work would just look a little bit different and your answer would be kind of switched, but still correct. Split this down the middle. First group, 3x squared and 2x. All they have in common is x. 3x squared divided by x. You're pulling one of those x's out. You're left with 3x. -2x divided by x. You're taking out the x. You still have the -2. Next group, 9x and -6. We can divide both of those by 3. 9x divided by 3 is 3x, and the first set of parentheses can help you a little bit with this. -6 divided by 3 is -2. So our factored form is x plus 3, 3x minus 2. If you think you would be interested in learning how to do this by guess and check, if you're watching the video and you'd be interested in learning, please let me know. I will show it to you during work time sometime. Go to number 10. This is an example of difference of two squares. Anytime that you see only two terms and it's subtraction, mainly x squared minus, it's probably difference of two squares. So what times what is 4? What number times itself? 2. And x times x is x squared. What number times itself is 81? 9. The factored form is 2x plus 9, 2x minus 9. Anytime you have this pattern, perfect square minus perfect square, it factors in this way.